Don't forget, the next video after this part has already been made and is live now on my Patreon for you to see straight after you've watched this. Fully voice acted, soundtracked, and with my signature editing up for early access to the incredible 4,700 plus patrons who support my work from just $3 with more and more access at higher tiers. This has long been requested to have the full next video early available to you guys who just can't wait for what happens next on Ultra Vegito. And now, it's finally here. Links are in the pinned comment and description, head there after the video. So our story continues with Vegito in his powered up final Ultra Demon form, now coated in kaioken aura after pushing himself to his utmost limit, bulging with veins on his face itself as he closes his eyes, trying to keep his body and mind intact, thinking, this power, this pressure, even with a margin's body to handle all this extra power from the kaioken, it can't take this level for too long. After all, Boo's regeneration abilities are not infinite. Once beaten up enough, even he can become too damaged to do a thing. As behind Vegito, we see a flashback of Boo's beaten body after fighting Kid Boo. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a sharp pain strikes the Godkiller by surprise, but it doesn't seem to be from Yamoshi. Damn it! As suddenly, with no visible attacker in sight, Vegito on his own accord falls to his knees, his eyes wincing and his body tense as he comments, "What happened?" Before with one eye open and now in serious pain, he grunts out, "I knew it! I've pushed things too far with times 1,000. My whole body is breaking apart. My muscles are tearing even when I'm not doing anything. I need to finish this now before it's too late." But meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, where Yamoshi was struck into a range of mountains, complete silence is heard until Vegito! As suddenly, of course, the legendary first Super Saiyan God bursts out from the rubble with a roar, as his divine orange and red aura explodes over the expanse of land, and with rage in his eyes, he would scream, "How dare you! How dare you think you could compare to a god!" As when he ducks his head down with a building and bubbling look of rage, he would continue as a fiery aura sparks around him. "How dare you challenge your elder, Saiyan? You only exist because of me. You only know of the Super Saiyan forms because of the legends of my story. I don't know what it is that you're using, but there is only one ultimate Super Saiyan form here. And it is mine!" Instantly then resulting in the triggered Saiyan God rushing in at Vegito with pure vengeance in his heart, ready to stop the battle here and now. Leaving us still damaged and recovering Vegito, rubbing his forehead as he thinks, "Typical. His power level is increasing even further now. What even are his limits? I guess, since he's a Saiyan, there won't be any. But that just means the same goes for me, Yamoshi. Kaioken times 1,100! As unbelievably, even in this incredibly damaged state, Vegito pushes even further, his body literally ripping in front of us as an outrageous blood-red aura begins to shoot out from his skin. But despite this increase in power, Yamoshi loses no confidence and continues rushing in ambivalently, screaming, "Increase your Kaio crap as much as you want, God Killer! It still makes you no Saiyan God!" But as Yamoshi rushes forward, in the blink of an eye, the signature kaioken sound is heard, as inexplicably, too fast for even a god's eyes, Vegito appears right behind Yamoshi, with his arm pulled back, already ready to slam into the third. Eventually, swiping his fist straight down onto the back of the first Super Saiyan God, before Yamoshi even has a chance to turn around, sending him flying across the planet before... Finally, being able to turn his head despite the velocity of how fast he's moving towards the ground, Yamoshi grunts out, "You! Where is this power coming from?" But even with Yamoshi's questioning, it does nothing to stop his body now escaping the orbit of the planet itself as he screams in the emptiness of space. And the force of his traveling body is so great that within seconds, Yamoshi's body is then seen still hurtling from one planet he was just on now to the other. And just as quickly and violently, with nothing seemingly able to slow his body down, the planet too is completely penetrated as Yamoshi smashes from one end through to the other. And in the process, a planet with a Swiss cheese-like hole is then seen from the ground. With Ultra Vegito just watching on from the ground commenting, "You're not getting away from me that easily, Yamoshi." Before, with a focused look on his eyes, Vegito readies an already fragile looking body, thinking, "It's now or never. This has to end with the next move." Before then moving his body slowly into a unique fighting stance, letting out a single breath before... Vegito instantly then shoots off at light speed like a bullet right up into the sky, aiming exactly for the tunnel Yamoshi left behind. All the while smiling to cover up the pain from the outside as he lets out, "That's it! I can feel the power increasing within me! I feel unreal! Your time has come, Yamoshi! Just be a good boy and let me finish this once and for all!" Reaching within the blink of an eye the same hole that Yamoshi had just smashed through. But as Vegito chases after Yamoshi, just his aura alone disrupts the entire structure of the planet, as it begins bursting into pieces as Vegito roughly smashes through. And quickly too, Vegito then finally catches up with Yamoshi once again, as they both head towards yet another planet. "It's time to die now, Saiyan God!" As with a raucous yell and his arms together and pulled back, Vegito readies himself right next to Yamoshi, ready to slam down once again, even harder than before. And this time, the strike is so hard and impactful, Yamoshi's eyes damn near pop out from the collision and just how blood-curdling his scream was. Sending him shooting off now down to the surface of the planet. At such speed, it almost appears as if he was doing it out of his own volition. But though in intense pain and still struggling to get a grip of himself, Yamoshi would remain consciousness, looking back in rage before... I've had enough of this! In a loud yell of irritation, Yamoshi would forcefully try to finally regain control of his velocity. Quickly turning his body and looking down now at the shining ball of energy chasing him. That would of course be Vegito. Come to Papa, Yamoshi. This planet will be your grave. As Vegito, with both arms out, would now make the final push at top speed to annihilate Yamoshi with one final blow. What? But unfortunately, with Yamoshi back in shape, things do not go to plan for the God Killer. As Yamoshi quickly then grabs onto the fist of Vegito and then yells, "No, God Killer! It is you who will die here!" Before then pulling down Vegito by his arm with force, as the God Killer reacts in confusion. Wait! What are you doing? Instead, mid-flight reversing Vegito's attack completely, using his own force against him, sending him careering right down to the surface of the planet uncontrollably. As soon as we look across the peaceful greenery of the planet, it is quickly interrupted by a massive crash land, caused by none other than Vegito. As in a dense crater on the ground, incapacitated, the God Killer is found practically unmoving. That wasn't good getting slammed with my body in this state. Damn it! But even with his damage now severely amplified on his sore body, Vegito would make every effort to try and move his body back up. Stay down, Saiyan! But as he peers up, a horrifying sight of the legendary Saiyan approaches. Time for payback, God Killer! As suddenly in a flash, Yamoshi lands right on top of Vegito, his arms instantly swinging as the helplessly damaged from kaioken God Killer can barely even defend himself. As suddenly in a vicious pummeling, Yamoshi would let rain down his fists, smashing Vegito across the face in all directions, as the God Killer could only just momentarily think, No! I'm going to die here! If I don't do something right now, I'm going to die! I am not dying here! As suddenly, Vegito forcefully pushes away Yamoshi's fists with his aura alone. As with a demonic roar, Vegito powers up his kaioken even further. This again! Leaving the third momentarily bemused as the raging red aura begins to light up his entire face. And as Vegito gets up, powering up to his seemingly endless limits, Yamoshi would be forced to jump back. Kaioken times 2,000! And for good reason too, it seems, as as immediately Vegito's aura begins to increase and envelop to unfathomable levels, creating a well of aura and energy that now dwarfs the third in comparison. What has this Saiyan become? Leaving Yamoshi with his hair blowing back from the force of Vegito's energy alone to just stand in awe at the red mass of energy before him, wondering now if he even is truly still fighting a mortal. But soon, even standing there in the presence of Vegito's power becomes too tall a task, as with a ferocious bump in energy, the third begins to be pushed back and off balance. This is too much energy for one being! His body has to explode at this point, surely! As with one eye open, struggling to keep himself straight, even the third begins to realize that whatever Vegito is doing, it is pushing the very limits of what is even possible. But as Vegito finally stops his power up, despite all the fears, still covered in disheveled veins, a sinister smirk is seen as Vegito lets out, "I thought I told you gods already to stop underestimating us!" As Vegito then launches at Yamoshi with speed on behalf of all mortals with complete resentment, the very sound barrier around him creating a sonic boom as he moves. How did he recover already? Leaving Yamoshi to quickly then lift both his arms up in defense, hoping to brace himself before... Suddenly, just as Vegito reaches within touching distance, he immediately vanishes as if never there to begin with. Where will he come from this time? And Yamoshi, having remembered the last time Vegito attacked after vanishing, instantly becomes panicked, looking all over for a trace of the God Killer's presence. There he is! Until just as expected, Vegito appears once again just where Yamoshi had thought, ready to begin his attack. That is until Vegito once more vanishes, confusing Yamoshi to no end. And soon, he reappears behind Yamoshi once again, this time even further behind them. What on Sadala? But as Vegito reaches close, yet again he mysteriously vanishes. And at this point, it becomes clear that Yamoshi is just being played with, as he begins thinking, what is this fool doing? Could have caught me there. Does he think this is a game? Does he think I'm a game? Come out! And for a good minute at least, Yamoshi would just remain in silence, waiting for the God Killer to appear, but he just never does. Vegito! Come out, you coward! If I don't see you in the next second, I'm going to destroy this entire universe!
You do nothing, weakling!
Before out of nowhere, with the signature kaioken sound, Ultra Vegito would appear, slamming his fist right across Yamoshi's face, giving him exactly what he wanted, but in brutal fashion. Sending Yamoshi for a hard crash into what seems like a diamond-like structure in the distance. And on that final attack, it seems to be almost the last straw for the third, as he sits slumped with his head down, not able to do anything but mutter incoherent groans in pain. What's wrong, Yamoshi? I thought you were the strongest Saiyan in history! What a joke! While on the contrary, Vegito continues to power up forcefully, goading the third, while on the inside, we can see and sense that actually, the kaioken is putting Vegito's body through a level of pain none of us could even imagine. While the seemingly completely beaten Yamoshi, now barely able to open his eyes and bleeding profusely, would look defeated in stance, thinking only to himself, "This guy, he's incredible. It's unbelievable even. He hasn't transformed an inch from when we started battling, yet his power now just won't stop growing. He's even exceeded mine. The power of a true Super Saiyan God. How could a mortal Saiyan go past one that attained godhood? How far have these Saiyans come since my time?" And soon, begrudgingly, Yamoshi would stand back up, wobbling from his damage still as he holds onto the mountain for some support, before letting out, "Well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out on my feet. I'm going to die like a true Saiyan." "As you wish, Yamoshi!" And instantly, as if having heard Yamoshi's final words, Vegito appears with instantaneous speed, right in front of Yamoshi with a roar, his arm already cocked back, ready to put the Saiyan God out of his misery once and for all. What? But suddenly, as Vegito rushes in one final time, something strikes him and stops him straight in his tracks. As quickly, we then see internally at Vegito's heart, and safe to say, it is pumping so hard and fast, it begins to almost look as if it is still until... Unbelievably, in a shock turn, the God Killer's beating heart suddenly explodes into a tsunami of flesh and blood all over the insides of Vegito. And with that, the eyes of the God Killer suddenly go blank. His momentum near stops, and not a sound more can be heard from him. Falling like a bag of rocks down to the ground before Yamoshi, as the third winces in confusion, even stepping back from the unexpected turn of events. Eventually leaving the lifeless and internally bleeding body of Vegito dead on the floor, as if frozen in time, not even reverting back to base form. For the first time, Vegito may be truly dead. And standing there now utterly curious over the dead body of the God Killer was the near-beaten Yamoshi, looking down as Vegito's body doesn't utter out as much as a single breath. Internally though, the battle-damaged Yamoshi would begin asking himself, What just happened here? Did he have a delayed reaction to one of my attacks? This is so strange. And slowly, Yamoshi would then begin walking over to Vegito's corpse, and soon would bend down and place 2 fingers on the side of Vegito's neck, trying his best to sense any trace of a pulse, before looking down and saying, "Well, what do you know? This fool is really dead. He is mortal, isn't he? Just like Earthlings, We Saiyans have a heart that pumps blood through our veins, and his has completely stopped. He's cold to the touch too. Before, when he begins to think deeper, he reminisces on exactly what he saw, continuing, "Come to think of it, that power he displayed, that red aura, I knew that couldn't have been his true strength. It felt like he had summoned Lucifer himself. That kind of jump just can't be achieved without sacrifice. And I think this fool really paid the ultimate price just to try and beat me." How foolish, but typical of a Saiyan. Kaioken, was it? Sounds familiar. Before then looking down and contemplating more, saying, "Is that not the technique that the lower Kais were taught to keep up with the supreme Kais? Their measly power levels needed those primitive multipliers. Don't tell me he somehow knew of it. How would a Saiyan from Earth know of any of that? Ridiculous." As behind Yamoshi, he begins visualizing a strange scene of a Kai training Vegito. Of course, not knowing of the story of King Kai and Goku. "Come here, fool!" And with that all done with, Yamoshi would then grab onto the lifeless shoulders of Vegito, before placing the body over his shoulder like a bag of loot. As when he turns to give one final word to his opponent, he would let out, "Well, in the end, the famous God Killer has been defeated, and by another Saiyan no less. As expected, I remain the strongest Saiyan to have ever lived, and the only to have attained true godhood. I'm sorry, my brother, but your body will not know any rest in this universe. My orders are to bring you to the Grand Priest and Zeno. What they have in store for you, I do not know. But this is not personal. It's just business." Before then launching into the sky, presumably to begin travel to the Grand Priest. But just as he does so, immediately we are seen traveling quickly back into the body of Vegito, and back to his now deformed heart, which seems oddly a strange hue of pink, before beginning to move until... just like that, Vegito's heart is somehow reformed, pink now in color and beating once more. Guess who's back? As the unthinkable happens, and Ultra Vegito is brought back to life completely of his own doing. "Come here! Huh? What the?" Immediately slipping off the third and quickly maneuvering to grab Yamoshi from behind with both arms locked, Raditz and Goku style, with the shocked god only able to look back as if having seen a ghost, yelling, "What is this? Vegito? How are you alive this time? I saw it with my own eyes. I felt it. You should be dead!" But the giggling back Vegito cannot help but just respond ominously back, My, you members of the Five truly have such short memories, don't you? Don't you remember me telling you, I won't die here? As Vegito suddenly begins screaming at the top of his voice, as a noticeable concentration of power soon builds up within him. Huh? What are you doing? Are you trying to self-destruct, you damn fool? As suddenly, a wave of shock and panic washes over Yamoshi, as he soon realizes what exactly Vegito might have planned. How observant! But as Vegito's body now becomes a bright light source in itself, Yamoshi's worst fears are brought to life as Vegito, with a wide mouth, would continue yelling, "I told you, I'm taking you down one way or another, even if it means blowing me into 1,000,000 pieces. But unlucky for you, I can come back from that, but you can't!" As suddenly Vegito begins ramping up his energy from within, glowing brighter and brighter to the point now even Yamoshi can barely be seen within the light until... No! You fool! And in one ginormous explosion mid-air, a perfect sphere of uncontrollable burning energy is created, destroying everything around it, reminding us all so much of Vegeta's last stand against Boo. And in the aftermath, just like that one moment in history, a massive crater of island-like proportions is left behind on the surface of the mystery planet. But from the cloud of ash and smoke in the air that would be left behind also, small pellets of an unknown material would begin raining down one by one. And on further inspection, these pellets appear to be blobs of pink goo, of course from Marge and Boo, moving and fidgeting until... suddenly, they would all begin moving together to convene as if each had a life of its own, slowly creating a larger and larger clump of pink material on the ground before... That's never going to feel right. Just like that, the God Killer is reborn once again, now immune to his own self-destruction, but practically now devoid of any energy also. And with his eyes almost beginning to close from the lack of power he has left, he comments, "I did it. But it looks like even with the enhancements Jerome made, his little gadget can't keep up with the levels of energy and power I have now. I can barely just get up. I'll need another Senzu ASAP." And with that, Vegito does then raise his torso up with some struggle. Sitting with one knee up and resting his arm on it, he continues, "But damn, it's a big loss for sure that I couldn't absorb him. That energy was unbelievable. I'd practically be twice as strong instantly. But if I didn't take him out with a self-destruction, I'd be done for right now. There's too much of a gap still between me and these new gods. I'll have to find another way to get stronger." There's no need, Vegito. I'm still here ripe for absorption. But as Vegito completely believes the defeat of Yamoshi, a voice from straight behind calls, "No, don't tell me!" Leading to Vegito in his weakened state to quickly turn around and... Damn you! As standing before him with his back turned to us is a familiar figure, which causes Vegito's fight or flight to be activated, instantly jumping back in fear. My, you're a jumpy one today, God Killer. As now, with a frontal view, it is revealed to be Yamoshi once again, still in his true Super Saiyan God form, still in one piece, but also now with most of his armor destroyed from Vegito's last attack. As the third would then say, "Why the surprised look? As if that was really going to be how you took me down, Vegito. Exactly what clown world do you live in up there? You were already used up. That kaioken you used earlier had zapped away anything you had within you. I could sense it instantly. Maybe if you were at full power, it would have got me. But as you were, that's done nothing but seal your fate even further. While meanwhile a trembling Vegito would just barely stand, not uttering a sentence, until finally looking down with a somber look as if defeated, thinking, "Damn it, this mission of mine, it's just impossible. Every new level I reach, there still exists someone far beyond me. Yet even they are below those two midgets. There's just no way." Before the callous Yamoshi, not caring for his opponent's change in emotions, would then raise his arm up, palm faced at Vegito as he lets out finally, "It's just as Madara told you, Vegito. This flawed revenge plan of yours was never going to work. Well done for eliminating most of the destroyers. But this now is the end of the line. And I'm afraid of your abilities. I can't even afford to bring you back in one piece anymore. Be gone!" Instantly then blasting out a concentrated ball of energy with speed, straight for the stood still God Killer. But Vegito, not even looking at the attack coming towards him, would just close his eyes in a forlorn state and say, "I guess it's true. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry for everything I did. I'm sorry, warrior." As suddenly from out of Vegito's pocket, a strange button is pulled out, before immediately, at the last second, being pressed. But only nanoseconds later, Yamoshi's attack would land with absolutely no way for the God Killer to have moved out of the way in time. And as the smoke begins to rise, it's unclear if Vegito had even managed to survive, as not a sound can be heard over the bellows of the smoke. Where am I? As shockingly, out of nowhere, the purpose of the strange button is finally seen, with Jiren the Grey now finally summoned and back on the battlefield, just as we saw him in an earlier chapter, still bulked up to tremendous levels, surrounded in coils of black lightning, and one mysterious black horn protruding right out of his skull, while Vegito just remains eyes closed in the background with a disappointed look as if he didn't want to do this. Huh? Who the hell is that? A demon? Of course, leaving Yamoshi in a state of confusion and shock as a figure he had never seen before appears not only to save Vegito, but also withstands his attack without a morsel of a reaction. But regardless, Jiren, now realizing where he is and who has just summoned him, turns his head around and yells,
"Vegito! I will kill you!"
But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag Jiren in the comments down below and let me know how you think Vegito is gonna get out of this one. Or just head over to my Patreon right now, where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked, and edited for you to enjoy with over 4,700 other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mangas too. It's the deal of the century.